Up next, the RWL Undisputed World Tag Team titles up for grabs with Sweet Stan Lane and beautiful Bobby Eaton. The Midnight Express challenging John Van and Guy Cormier, the Originals.
These two teams last met at Rage in November of 2023 with the Originals picking up a submission win. Only this time it's different. This time it's for the belts.
And, like the amazing Jeannie Parker, the Originals haven't lost a title match in years.
Stan Lane, Bobby Eaton, the Original Midnight Express, accompanied to ringside by manager James E. Cornette, and Corny was talking his head off backstage earlier, practically guaranteeing that we were going to see the Undisputed World Tag Team Championships changing hands tonight. So the question is, what does Corny know that we don't?
Nothing that we don't know, Wally. Just like that last match in 2023, the Midnight are gonna fight dirty, same as last time. And if Cornette feels the need to involve himself in things, he's never shy about doing it. But again, they're going up against the single, winningest tag team in the almost 30-year history of this promotion. Can't say I really like the Midnight's odds here.
Well, don't tell Cornette. It looks like he's having way too much fun, and I'd hate to ruin it for him. Nonetheless, we can't ignore the long and successful history of Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton, the Midnight Express, under the guidance of James E. Cornette.
Well, maybe. I'm a little partial. But we also can't ignore the even bigger success of the Originals under the guidance of my boo, Sylvia Strong.
And here they come now, the Undisputed World Tag Team Champions John Van and Guy Cormier, accompanied by Sylvia Strong, as you point out. And it's always a party atmosphere when the Originals come to town.
Totally a party atmosphere, Don. I love this entrance. Kind of reminds me of the intro to Saturday Night Live. Hey, you said you do a good Don Pardo? Come on, that'd be a good time.
Hex, I couldn't possibly. I'm not an extrovert like you.
All right, well, it was worth a try.
Wow, would you just look at her? The way she moves, that electric personality. That woman just oozes sexy out of every pore.
Johnny, would you please put your tongue back inside your head?
John and Guy, they started as singles wrestlers way the hell back in 2012, until straight random chance brought them and Sylvia together, and it's been a rocket sled on greased rails to the top ever since. Starting with the now retired RWL Northern Tag Team's titles, which they held for several years. They've been crowned as tag team champs no less than 4 times, with this current run as undisputed tag champs, now stretching into its 5th year, and the boys, they're not showing any signs of slowing down.
13 years with the company, 10 of those spent as tag team champions in one form or another. The success of the Originals, along with Sylvia Strong, is absolutely undeniable.
So could the Midnight Express pull off an upset? Well, maybe, but I sincerely doubt it. I don't see that happening.
It's the Undisputed World Tag Team Championship match, starring manager Sylvia Strong and the Undisputed World Tag Team Champions John Van, Guy Cormier, the Originals.
Now you're cooking with plutonium, Don.
I spent the last minute and a half working up my nerve to get that one in.
The next match, one fall with a 20-minute time limit, is for the RWL Undisputed World Tag Team Championships. Introducing first the challengers, accompanied by James E. Cornette, and at a combined weight of 492 pounds, Sweet Stan Lane, and beautiful Bobby Eaton, the Midnight Express. And their opponents, accompanied by Sylvia Strong, at a combined weight of 520 pounds, the Undisputed World Tag Team Champions, the Chicago Hammer John Van, and Crippler Guy Cormier, the Originals.
Oh, damn. The crowd here in Phoenix definitely primed for this Undisputed World Tag Team Championship matchup as John and Guy hand the titles over to referee Walt Rothburn. Oh, this is gonna be a wild one for sure.
All right, with sides chosen up, look like it's gonna be Bobby Eaton and John Van initiating contact in this tag team title matchup as Walt Rothburn sounds the bell. John Van moves in, catches a kick from Eaton, delivers a kick to Eaton. A running knee right to the head of Bobby Eaton. John Van driving the knee into the leg of Bobby Eaton. John rounds him up by the wrist. A series of kicks, a kick to the face, takes him down, and now starts setting up, winding up the arms of Bobby Eaton. John Van with a couple of knees into the back. Moves right back in right away. Eaton back up on his feet, catches a hard right from John Van from behind. Look at this. A sleeper hold almost immediately. But quickly countered with a jawbreaker. Eaton back up on his feet. Locks up Van. Whips him over the top rope out on the apron. Delivers a right. Oh, look at this. Stan Lane inadvertently hitting his own partner. And that did not run to plan. John Van tried to be drugged back into the ring, but no dice. He puts on the brakes, rolls himself back in. Bobby Eaton from behind with a hard shot to the back. Whips Van to the ropes, misses with the boot to the face, catches the right to the midsection from John Van, counters with a kick to the midsection. Bobby Eaton goes behind on Van again. German release suplex from Bobby Eaton. Eaton charges. Whoa! Nicely done Hurricane Rana from beautiful Bobby Eaton. John Van winds up the arm, slams him face first into the canvas. Sylvia Strong looking on, of course. John drives Eaton into the turnbuckle. Tags in Guy Cormier. Here we go. A tag team, double team right here. A whip to the ropes for Eaton. Double shoulders as Guy Cormier takes over for his team. And again, very strategically, working on the arms of Bobby Eaton, same as John Van did. And over time, that is going to wear Eaton down. Cormier also driving a pair of knees into the back of beautiful Bobby Eaton. Goes for the cover and hooks the leg. 1, 2. Well, a fairly early near fall. Now everybody's in the ring. Stan Lane whips Van out to the ropes. Cormier gives him a shot to the back, shows him the door. Bobby Eaton on the outside, the legal man in the ring. Oh, look at this. Guy Cormier is going to go high risk, but changes his mind as Bobby Eaton returns to the ring. A knee to the skull from Guy Cormier. Cormier catching an enziguri from Eaton. Eaton rebounds off the middle rope, a flying elbow to Guy Cormier. They lock up again, kick to the midsection from Guy. A rebound off the ropes, misses with the crossbody. Eaton rounds up Cormier, vertical suplex. Cormier trying to get to a standing position. Eaton right behind him, another German release suplex from beautiful Bobby Eaton. Hard floating overhand right to the back of Guy Cormier. Bobby Eaton gathers him up again. Escorts him towards the Midnight Express's corner. Head first into the turnbuckle goes Guy Cormier. Here's a tag. Here comes Sweet Stan Lane for the first time. And here's a double team. Whip to the ropes. Double hip toss to Guy Cormier. Cormier rolls out to the floor. Stan Lane going right out after him. Gets a hold of him. Gets a kick to the midsection for his troubles. Cormier with another kick to the midsection. Sets him up. Has him up for a powerbomb. And Matt drove him right into... not once but twice. Stan Lane driven into the apron by Guy Cormier right at the feet of Sylvia Strong. Followed up with a stomp to the midsection. Cormier gathers up Stan Lane, catches a kick. Stan Lane makes his way back inside the ring. Here comes Guy Cormier right after him. Gets a hold of him from behind. Hard shot to the back. Cormier whips him to the ropes. Hard shot to the midsection. Doubles him over. Stan Lane counters with an elbow. Cormier counters with a kick to the midsection. A misses with the running kick. Stan Lane gets locked up first. Cormier has him all the way up for the vertical suplex, but no. A quick counter into a running bulldog. Stan Lane catches a shot from Guy. A spinning punch. And down goes Stan Lane. I mean, he went out like a clubfish. Here's a cover and a hook of the leg. 1, 2. Another near fall for the original. Guy Cormier unloads with lefts on the head of Stan Lane, followed up with a stomp to the midsection, takes himself out of the equation. Here comes John Van, the Chicago Hammer on the tag. John Van with a running knee. Takes Stan Lane down the canvas, turns him over. Gets a hold of him, but countered with an enziguri from Lane. Lane turns to Guy Cormier, catches a shot. John Van doesn't exploit the mistake, goes behind. There's a clothesline that takes Stan Lane down again. Lane back up on his feet, but John misses with that move. Catches a cheap shot from Guy Cormier. Stan Lane up over the shoulders of the Chicago Hammer, taken towards the ropes, hung up off the top rope by his throat. John Van tags in Guy Cormier. Stan Lane to a standing position on the outside apron. Boom! A shoulder tackle takes him down to the floor. Another takes down Bobby Eaton. Guy Cormier taking care of both members of the Midnight Express here. Comes on out. Goes after Stan Lane. Has him by the hair. Sets it up. Turns him. Oh! Stunner. A shoulder right to the head of Sweet Stan Lane as the referee begins to count. Kick to the midsection from Stan Lane. Guy Cormier locks him up. Pitches him all the way up the ramp, halfway towards the stage. The referee already counting as Guy Cormier delivers a boot to the face of Stan Lane. Cormier making his way back to the ring. And Stan Lane's going to have to hustle to get back in there. Hung up off the top rope by beautiful Bobby Eaton. Guy Cormier back up on his feet, catches a knee to the midsection from Eaton. Eaton getting away from the corner here as Stan Lane returns to the ring. Guy Cormier with a clothesline takes Lane down hard. Stan Lane trying to make the tag with Guy Cormier in between the two partners, putting a stop to that. Cormier has him. Oh, another clothesline. Stan Lane goes down yet again. Bobby Eaton counters with a cheap shot. Cormier makes him pay with a right hand. Jim Cornette so far not getting directly involved. Here comes John Van as Stan Lane slowly makes his way back to a standing position. Counters with a shot to the midsection of John Van. The Chicago Hammer escorted to the Midnight Express corner, head first into the turnbuckle. Here's a tag to Bobby Eaton. And here comes a double team from the Midnight. Van whipped to the ropes. Back body drop. As beautiful Bobby Eaton takes over for the Midnight. John Van delivers a kick to the head. Locks up Bobby Eaton, a series of kicks right to the chest. Van rounds him up again. Wrist clutch, knee to the head. And down he goes. Guy Cormier brought in on the tag again. And so far, this match has been quite the ride so far. Still no sign of a pin or a submission. Another wrist clutch, knee to the head from Guy Cormier. He steps out. John Van comes back in. They are just playing musical chairs here with beautiful Bobby Eaton stomped to the face from John Van. Van rounds him up. Power bomb. But that ain't enough. Parlays it into a driving knee right into the head of beautiful Bobby Eaton. A series of mounted lefts followed up with a stomp to the midsection from John Van. The Chicago Hammer rounding up Bobby Eaton. Eaton counters with a kick to the midsection, spins John Van around with the right, goes behind. A hard shot to the back. Goes behind again. This time he's got John Van escorting him to the Midnight's corner, head first into the turnbuckle. John Van counters, catches a cheap shot from Stan Lane. A hard shot to the back from Bobby Eaton. Look at this, a quick takedown. And whoa, here's a submission we don't see too often. Whoa, a reverse Boston Crab from beautiful Bobby Eaton. John Van gathered to a standing position here, being escorted back to the opposing team's corner, head first into the turnbuckle once more, and here comes Sweet Stan Lane on the tag. Another double team ahead. Van whipped to the ropes once more. Another back body drop as Sweet Stan Lane takes over for the Midnight Express. A stomp to the face of John Van from Stan Lane. Lane goes to work on the arm, drives a knee into the arm of John Van. Stan Lane goes for the cover, hooks the leg center ring. One, but Guy Cormier right there to break up the pin almost immediately. Returns to his tag corner. Stan Lane rounds up John Van. Hard right hand takes him down to the canvas. Jim Cornette starting to get a little bit excited here. Shot to the midsection from John Van. As Stan Lane shoves him away, John spins him around with a hard right. Lane counters with an elbow and a running bulldog that takes John Van down to the canvas. Referee Walt Rothburn getting the hell out of the way here. More elbows to the gut from John Van to Stan Lane. They lock up, kick to the midsection from Lane. Lane locks up Van, escorts him towards the Midnight's corner yet again. Will he get there? He certainly does. And here comes Bobby Eaton on the tag. Another double team from the Midnight Express. Off the middle rope, double X handle across the arm of John Van as Bobby Eaton assumes control of this match. Oh, no, look at this. Whoa. Oh, underhook backbreaker. Here's a cover. 1. But again, Guy Cormier breaking up the pin, saving the match for his team. Again, the undisputed World Tag Team Championships on the line in this match. John Van locks up Bobby Eaton. Hard whip to the ropes. Van collides with Eaton. Eaton locks up. John Van up over the shoulder, taken towards the far corner, deposited headfirst into the turnbuckle. Eaton rounds up John Van again, locks him up. But Van, again with elbows to the midsection of Bobby Eaton, says, I'm not... Whoa! Running kick took him down hard. John Van doing a little bit of showing off here. As Stan Lane is brought in, John misses with the kick, catches the shot from Stan Lane into a sleeper hold here. This could be a problem. Referee Walt Rothburn checking things out. Guy Cormier right there to break things up. And Lane, I'm not sure what that was about. And Lane takes himself all the way up to the top turnbuckle in the far corner. Here we go, elbow across the back of John Van. The Chicago Hammer struggling to get to a standing position here as Stan Lane showboating for the fans. Lane charges, misses with the clothesline. John Van delivers a boot to the face, pitches him out of the corner, and John Van tags in Guy Cormier. Stan Lane standing center ring waiting for him. Cormier has him up over the shoulders. What are we going to see here? Oh! Just slammed him down. Here's a cover, but Jim Cornette finally interceding here, manipulating the turnbuckle in the far corner. He could have counted to 300 by now. 1, 2, oh, look at this. Stan Lane getting a hold of that bottom rope. Guy Cormier going to have to go from 0 again. Cormier with a wrist clutch knee to the head of Stan Lane. And once more, Jim Cornette interceding on behalf of his team. He's starting to see things go south. A kick to the head from Stan Lane. So Guy Cormier turns his attention to John Van. John counters with the right. Momentarily stunned is Stan Lane as Guy Cormier, the legal man in the ring, moves in, catches a hard right. Lane goes behind, rakes the back of Guy Cormier, locks him up, slams him headfirst into the floor. Lane countered with a leg sweep by Cormier. Cormier gathers him up again. Whoa, look at this. Lane puts on the brakes. And still no good. An enziguri from Guy Cormier turns his attention to Bobby Eaton. A clothesline for Eaton. Both members of the Midnight Express laid out by the Staten Island crippler. Guy Cormier hard overhand right to Lane. Cormier with a shot to the midsection. Winds up the arm and a kick right to the face of sweet Stan Lane. And this match more than half over and still no sign of a pin or a submission. Cormier rolls himself back inside the ring. Walt Rothburn still counting on Stan Lane, the legal man still on the outside. Cormier breaks the count, starts it all over again, gets a hold of Stan Lane, rolls him back inside the ring. Rolls himself in afterwards. Cormier rounds up Lane again. Oh, here we go, the claw, the brain claw. The Originals have won many a match with this one, but look at this. Stan Lane up on his feet, delivers a shot to the midsection, delivers another, backs off. Guy Cormier escapes the submission, delivers the clothesline that takes Cormier down. Here comes Bobby Eaton on the tag. Eaton moves in, locks up Cormier. Cormier locks him up over the shoulders. Little change of plans right there. Discus punch takes Eaton down to the canvas. Cormier tags in John Van. Van moves in. Whoa, both men miss with their move. John Van whips Eaton to the ropes, has him up. Whoa! Hard right hand right to the noggin. Van rounds him up again. Takes him towards the Originals' corner. Hit first into the turnbuckle. Here's a tag to Guy Cormier again. This team works like a well-oiled machine. Eaton whipped to the ropes, catches double shoulders as Guy Cormier assumes control for his team. Cormier with a series of kicks right to the head of beautiful Bobby Eaton. And he ain't going to stay beautiful for long if that keeps up. Stomp to the midsection from Cormier. Cormier again stepping out and tagging in John Van. Bobby Eaton charges, misses with the rolling kick. John Van gets a hold of him, but an elbow to the face backs him off again. Eaton goes behind on Van once more, trying to take him to the Midnight Express's corner. Head first into the turnbuckle goes John, and here comes Stan Lane on the tag. Another double team forthcoming from the Midnight Express. Van whipped off the ropes and a third back body drop. In tandem from the Midnight Express, Stan Lane stalking John Van. Whoa, this is not good. Sets up the underhook. Has him up. Underhook pile driver from Stan Lane. Here's the cover, a hook of the leg, maybe. Oh no, John Van. Saved by Guy Cormier again. As Cormier watches closely. Eyeballing Bobby Eaton. Stan Lane with a snap mirror on John Van and a grind of the boot into the face of the Chicago Hammer. Lane rounds him up. Discus punch takes him down again. Stan Lane tags in Bobby Eaton. John Van desperately trying to make it to his team's corner. Succeeds in doing so. Here's a hot tag to Guy Cormier. Cormier moves in, running kick to the face of beautiful Bobby Eaton. Turns him around. Eaton counters with an enziguri. Cormier rolls to the outside momentarily. Rolls back in for a quick reset. Gets a hold of Eaton from behind. Quick count. Beautiful counter from Bobby Eaton, but an equally good counter from Guy Cormier. Cormier whips Eaton to the ropes. Jim Cornette momentarily distracting Guy Cormier long enough. Here we go. Stan Lane with a side suplex on Guy Cormier. And once again, sweet Stan Lane brought in on the tag. Guy Cormier moves in, catches a series of rights and a kick. Whoa! Cormier puts on the brakes on that kick. Rebound off the ropes, flying punch to Stan Lane, and down he goes. Cormier covers, hooks the leg. But Bobby Eaton right there to break up the pin and save the match for his team. Stan Lane counters with mounted punches to Guy Cormier. Cormier shoves him away, both boots, gets back up to a standing position, misses with the stomp. Stan Lane charges, misses with the clothesline. Cormier goes behind, quickly countered by Stan Lane. Escorting Cormier to the Midnight Express's corner, head first into the turnbuckles. Here comes Bobby Eaton on the tag. Here comes a double team. Shot to the midsection, right to the gut of Guy Cormier. Bobby Eaton goes behind with a hard shot. Whips Cormier to the ropes. Back body drop. Beautiful Bobby Eaton swiftly making his way to the top turnbuckle. John Van nowhere in sight right now. Diving headbutt to Guy Cormier. Eaton slams face first into the canvas by Guy Cormier. The Staten Island Crippler rounds him up. There's the claw again. This could be it right here. Referee checking it out. But look at this. Bobby Eaton back up on his feet. Escapes the brain claw of the originals. Whoa! And a head scissors that takes Cormier down. Rolls out quickly to the outside. Rolls back inside. Clothesline to the back of the head from Bobby Eaton. And here comes Stan Lane again with just about 2 minutes to go here. Cormier goes behind on Stan Lane. Slams his head into the turnbuckle. Countered with an elbow. John Van delivers a shot to the back of the head. Cormier opens up with a series of shots. Slams down Stan Lane to the canvas. Cormier rounds up Stan Lane. A wrist clutch boot to the face. Down he went. Here's a cover. One. But no good. Bobby Eaton breaking up the pin again. We are rapidly running out of time here. Cormier takes himself all the way up to the top turnbuckle in the far corner. Stan Lane catching a double boot stomp right into the gut. Cormier covers. 1, 2, 3. Bobby Eaton too late as the originals retain the undisputed World Tag Team Championship.
The time of the fall, 18 minutes, 45 seconds, your winners, and still undisputed World Tag Team Champions, the originals.
Ha! These guys love to keep us in suspense, don't they, Dandy Don? With like 1 minute and 15 seconds left, John Van and Guy Cormier retaining the undisputed World Tag Team Championships in pretty spectacular fashion over the Midnight Express.
And so it's been another very impressive evening for Sylvia Strong and her clients, with Gary Galaxy winning his matchup and the originals retaining the undisputed World Tag titles over the Midnight. I'm sure, Johnny Bianco, there will be something of a celebration between the Stronghold and its members this evening, and you might be part of that package.
And everyone here is invited to join us and Tex for whipping on the sectarians the way you did. Your money is no good tonight. Everything is on me, boss.
Our main event when we return right after the break.